Hey, r/creepy, what are some cool Native American myths? From Reddit. From Somewhat Strangely. One of my favorites is the Arapaho legend of Rawgums. In the legend, White Owl is a representation of winter. It's told in another story how she defeated Thunderbird to become the most powerful and usher in a long winter. The longer version of Rawgums has him run into White Owl Woman shortly after growing up. She challenges him to a battle of wits, which is supposed to be allegory for purity and honesty or something. Rawgums wins, so White Owl offers her life to him, thus symbolically ending winter and ushering in the growing seasons. Someone with better by all means correct me, but that's what I remember from this folklore. I'm just an enthusiast. From a deleted account. The Goatman is a favorite of mine. I wish there were more stories like this one, and the one from my friend in the comments of that thread, but he just doesn't show up on the internet too often. Response. From Brendan Uries. I'm Native American and grew up on a reservation myself, but I've only just realized that other people have heard of the Goatman. A few months ago, someone showed me Anasazi's Goatman story, and I remember hearing about that shit when I was in kindergarten. It gives me the creeps now knowing that someone described it almost exactly as I heard it when I was younger. Response. From Rocky Sunshine. I had a friend that swears he saw the Goatman on a dark reservation road in Arizona. He was working late one night at a truck stop when these girls came in crying and hysterical. They said that they hit something in the road, coming off the reservation. One said it was a goat, and the other one said it was a coyote. It lay in the road, lit up by the car's headlights. They thought it was dead until it stood up like a man. They said it stumbled a bit, glanced at the car, and ran off into the dark desert. All three said it was a goat that walked like a man. The driver put the car in gear and drove to the nearest place to park and regain composure. That was the truck stop. He decides he wants to see this Goatman. After work, he drives out to where they said they hit it, parks on the side of the road and waits. He fell asleep. These are dark and very seldom used roads, especially at night. He hears tapping on his back window and wakes up. When he looked into his rearview mirror, he sees a goat face looking into his car. The Goatman was perched on the back of his car looking into his back window. He freaks and starts his car, drives off and says that it fell off his car as he sped away. He never went back, no matter how much our friends begged him to take them there to see it. Response. From Brendan Uries. I don't know if other tribes have heard of them, but they're called little people. There was a story about a lady. Apparently she was hurt and ended up in a ditch somehow. She claimed that these little people dragged her out and into the open where someone would find her. But they can also be bad, and you aren't really supposed to talk about them, or else they'll show up. My grandfather told me about them when I was younger, so I asked him what was so bad. But he wouldn't tell me and told me to knock it off and stop talking about them. After he died earlier this year, I asked my dad, because I just thought that my grandfather was afraid of them. But he also told me to shut up, because something bad would happen if I talked about them. Response. From Vi, 1987. I'm just going to throw this here. This comment from a random scary experience thread was the first time I had read about them, and creeped me out more than any other comment, which they left a link in the comments as well, so we're going to read that here, right now. From One Shot Account. When I was around 6, my family lived out in the rural area in Southern California near a Kiowa tribe reservation. We had a few acre ranch that was beside a small mountain, or a large hill. My room had large windows that faced towards the mountainside, and as such, it was always extremely dark at night, so there was a motion sensor porch light that was attached over the back door, which you could see from my window. Think of an L on its side. The back door led to a room we never used, but anyone coming to the property thought it was the front door. While trying to sleep, I hear tapping on the window like a subtle scratching. I wake up and see two very striking yellow eyes in the silhouette of something at the window. Very canine. Now, we had coyotes here, but this was the size of a small man, far larger than any coyote, and there were no wolves in the region. We had a dog, but a border collie was nowhere near the size of this. So we stare at each other for a few moments, just dead still. I'm completely frozen on what to do while it just stares back. It begins to scratch again at the window, then turns and walks, upright, to the back door and tries the handle. The light goes on, and I see this furry dogman thing trying to get in, and I freak. I remember running out of my room and grabbing a rifle we had in a case in the living room, like 15 feet away from my door, and then after grabbing the rifle, I ran back to my room. I never knew what it was, and I only learned about skinwalkers much later. Never told my parents, but I slept with that Winchester rifle beside my bed for a few years after. Anybody have creepy childhood urban legends? Folklore town myth associated with where you grew up? From the r/horror forum. From Several Ladder. I can recall several local urban legends we told each other with some kernel of truth. The scariest one for me, when I was around 78 years old, was the Catman. I lived in a small suburb, Norway, with the farmland all around, and forests beyond the fields. Legend has it that in the forest just across the nearest field, the Catman lived by himself in a hut he had built himself. You'd know if you got too close to his hut, because he had placed dead cats on stakes all around the perimeter of his dwelling. He supposedly snuck into our neighborhoods at night, between 2 or 3 in the morning, hunting cats which he flayed, ate their flesh, and sold their skins. If you met him, you would instantly freeze and go insane, because after eating all those cats, he no longer had human eyes, but cat eyes. Needless to say, we had several aborted missions to locate his hut in the woods. But when we got to the edge of the field, we had scared ourselves silly with the stories, and ran back into the safety of suburban orderliness. Man, I miss the magic, terror, and awe of being a child. Oh yes, the kernel of truth is that there indeed existed a Catman. It was a local guy with a hunter's license who specialized in shooting feral cats. So much for childhood imagination, huh? From Red Sea 666. Kelly's Cave in Albuquerque. There is a large arroyo on the west side of the city named the Calapasilas that runs the entire stretch from the West Mesa to the Rio Grande. It's dry almost all year long, but in monsoon season, it can be very dangerous. There is a small cave, maybe 10 feet deep, but varies based on erosion, on the north bank with a rocky outcropping over the top. The story I heard in elementary was a girl named Kelly. She was exploring it when it collapsed, and she died, with her remains still trapped there. Another story I heard later was a teenage girl in a wheelchair went onto outcropping during heavy rain, where it collapsed and killed her. Both apocryphal, and certainly our own little La Lorna tale to keep us away during monsoons. This scared the shit out of me as a kid though. I never went too close. Well, that does it for this episode, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I also hope I earned you guys a subscription, and please leave a like and comment down below. And if you guys have your own personal scary stories, you guys can send them on over to me, and my information will be linked in the description below. Panic with this coyote, and peace out.